All right. Yeah. Okay. So we're at part 5, and man, I did a lot of chopping, a lot of removing, because I find myself as I'm going into some of this particular lesson here, the temple is very deep. But not only that, the culture, the linguistics, the history, all that really needs to be brought out. But it will kind of deviate a little bit and come back. So I didn't want to do that, especially when we ain't got a lot of time. Um, and then there's some parts of it that really kind of touch my heart, which you guys will see prayerfully, and we'll go from there. Let me get this here. Everyone knows the rules. To be used for all lessons, right? So keep your mics muted except when asked for asking or answer a question. Using the mic for those that are in here live. And there is a feature in the room where you can raise your hand if you have a question. And if they didn't acknowledge it, you basically can just share before I go to the next slide. All questions must be on the topic. You have 60 seconds to ask or answer a question. If you pass the 60-second window, your mic will be muted for you. These rules are due to time and the recordings of the lessons. These are live teachings, so we must give the more enough time to complete the lesson. You good? Oh, okay. All right. So we're going to get right into it. So I put who was to guard his set apart place. All right. So in Bereshit or Genesis 2:15, so you Elohim took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. So he is to toil, he's to serve it, and he's to keep it. The same word for keep is the same word for guard, right? Shamar. All right. It says, and Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. All right. Then we look at the temple, Shalomo, Solomon's temple, and it says, and it came to pass that when Shalomo had finished the building of the house of Yahuah and the king's house, and all Shalomo's desires which he was pleased to do, verse 6 says, but if you shall at all turn from following me, you or your children, and will not keep my commandments and my statutes which I have set before you, but go and serve other Elohims and worship them, then I will cut off Israel, Yisrael or Israel, out of the land which I have given them, and this house which I have set apart, a Chodesh, for my name, will I cast out of my sight, and Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all people. All right. So now, a couple of things here. Notice that the pattern from the garden with the second temple. What can you see? What patterns do you see? Just comparing the garden to the temple that was created there. Anything? Okay. No worries. That if they do not keep or guard the house, they will be removed or cast out. The pattern continues outside the garden. So again, mind you, when they were in the garden, they didn't obey. What happened? They got kicked out. Okay. Israel goes, they have the tabernacle, that his presence is with them, just like the presence was with the Most High in the garden with Adam. He's with them, and then they started complaining. So then it says that generation is not going to go in, right? The next generation, they go into the land, then they mess up, and then what happens? They get kicked out. That's the cycle, right? So now he's saying, look, you all, everybody here is now in the land, meaning on earth, but there's a point where the ones that's going to be removed from the earth is going where? To heaven to get the harps and no? Okay. Right. So you see, you don't want to be the one removed from the earth, right? So anyway, this is an ongoing pattern. He wants us to catch these patterns. All right. So what is the primary job of Adam and the priest? So those who were to camp before the tabernacle on the east, before the tent of meetings towards the sunrise were Musha and Aharon and Aaron and his sons guarding the sanctuary itself to protect the people of Israel and any outsider who came near was to be what? Put to death. Okay, so we know that the priest is supposed to do this part. Everyone is in agreement so far. 18:1 says, so Yahuah said to Aharon or Aaron, you and your sons and your father's house with you shall bear iniquity connected with the sanctuary. Now, before I go forward, I was sharing with you guys last week that we're going to talk about the difference between two different types of priesthoods, right? So notice with this particular priesthood, there's some conditions that come with being in this. What is it? Okay, you got to bear the iniquities that's connected to the sanctuary. And the other one, let's say the Melchizedek, if you will, is there any iniquities you got to bear? Okay. You said you need a mic? Oh, okay. I understand.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Because with Miss Shecker that you going out, you giving the word, and it's no, you got to, I can bear your iniquities. If I don't tell you, and I've been told to tell you, you go on your own iniquity.
Okay. All right. Now listen to what it says. And you and your sons with you shall bear iniquity connected with your priesthood. So you see what's happening here is there is in this particular priesthood that there is some iniquity that's connected to it. So for example, this priesthood was established because of iniquity, right? Bottom of the mountain, Mount Sinai or Sinai, they got the golden calf and they're having a good old time and saying, this is Yahuah, blah, 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 blah. Right. And so then the Levite says, hey, Moses says, who's on this side, Yahuah's side? They said, we are. But mind you, they were the ones dancing down there too. Right. So when they got caught, they said, hey, so they said, okay, yeah, we were over there with you, Moses. And then you notice now they have to bear the iniquities of all the people, not just Israel, but even the strangers' offerings. All right, verse 2. And with you, bringing your brothers also, the tribe of Levi, or the Levi, the tribe of your father, that they may join you and minister to you while you and your sons with you before the tent of the witness or tent of meetings. It says, they shall keep guard over you and over the whole tent, but shall not come near to the vessels of the sanctuary or to the altar, lest they and you die. They shall join you and keep guard over the tent of meetings for all the service of the tent, and no outsider shall come near you. Verse 5. And you shall keep guard over the sanctuary and over the altar, that there may never again be wrath on the people of Israel. Right? So this particular priesthood has a lot of work to deal with. They're doing a whole bunch of slaughterings, even on Shabbat and things like that they're doing, going in people's homes. I know some of you don't like people going in your house and things like that, but if there's some leprosy going on in there, they're coming right on in, see what's happening, and all this other stuff. So they got a lot of work to do. But notice where all this is taking place. Okay, verse 6, it says, and behold, I have taken your brothers, the Luim, or the Levites, from among the people of Yisrael, Israel. They are a gift to you, given to Yahuah to do the service of the tent of meetings. They are a gift for this here. And you and your sons with you shall guard your priesthood for all that concerns the altar and that is within the veil, and you shall serve. And it says, I give your priesthood as a gift, and any outsider who comes near shall be put to death. All right. So this is a pretty strong priesthood, right? But this priesthood, as I'll tell you the answer now, but this priesthood is connected to the sanctuary. There's another priesthood that's not connected to the sanctuary, but it's connected to the earth. We'll see that in a little bit. All right. So the priestly obligation is in the temple, also to guard unclean things from entering in, which we'll read a little bit later. This was also the job of Adam. He was not allowed to let unclean things to come into the garden. He was removed from the presence of Yahuah. What unclean thing came into the garden? The Nakash came in, right? When the Nakash came in, this serpent comes in, all of a sudden starts to talk with the woman. The woman starts talking with the man. The serpent beguiled Eve or Hawa, as it says, but they listen. So then here comes the sin that follows. Thereby, now you got to be removed. Okay? Everyone understands that, right? Question? Okay.
More of a comment, I
Question.
guess.
Uh-huh.
You said in one of the verses that I think it was verse 4 that the Levites would even go out on the Sabbath and do certain things.
No, I think what I was sharing with you is that even the Levites worked on the Shabbat day.
Yeah, I think that's what you said, but I don't understand that because I thought they was the one leading that way, that you shouldn't work.
Oh, okay. So when you go over, let's say the Leviticus and Deuteronomy, you'll see it says, and it was a Shabbat day, and the priest went into the house and priest did this, and you'll see, in specific in Deuteronomy, how they did a bunch of sacrificing on the Shabbat day. That's what they did on behalf of Israel. So that's the priesthood is just, they're like separate from what, or I guess I'll say they're separate from their other brethren, to make it plain, I guess. But yeah, the Shabbat day, on the Shabbat day, the Levites still had to do certain things to make to keep cleanliness in the camp. That's the point of it.
They wasn't working for themselves. They was working for Yahuah.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
But my question was this, so I looked at that.
It's back.
Yeah. When I was looking at that, I says, when the tabernacle is established back on the earth, Jerusalem is established again, he says he's going to stand up his Levites again, his Levites and priests, for the very purpose of, because that's where his main sanctuary is, his presence is going to be, and they're going to be there for a specific purpose of guarding and keeping things and keeping order there. Okay, that's why I was looking. I was like, oh, okay, I can see the correlation.
Yeah, because they're homing in on this. Whereas Adam, being considered a priest, where is he going? He told him to go out, be fruitful, multiply, go all out to and declare the esteem of the Most High. That was his job, right? Okay. All right. First Chronicles 9:17. It says the gatekeepers were. Does anyone want to try their Hebrew? Shalom. Let me see. I'll start right here. All right. Shalom. Next one is Zachuv. Next one is this one here. The Talmon and the Achiman. Okay, good. And the kinsman, Shalom, was the chief. Until then, they were in the king's gate on the east side as the gatekeepers of the camp of the Lewim, or the Levites. Shalom, the son of Moreh, okay, son of, anyone ready? Come on, you can sound it out. Ev Yasaf, okay, son of who? Korach, okay, and his kinsmen of his father's house. Next is Hakakim, were in the charge of the works of the service, keepers of the threshold of the tent, as their fathers had been in charge of the camp of Yahuah, keepers of the entrance. Now, this is going to be very key to the future temple that's going to be built, because these are they are guarding the entrance, specifically the east. Okay, everything coming east. Where was Adam sent out of the east? right? So he's going out of that gate. And then you're going to notice that the temples are all going to have guards at that particular part of the gate, right? And then you're going to see the way to get back in the garden is going to be in that same gate. Okay? All right. So we're at verse 20. It says, and Phinehas, or Phineas as it's commonly called, and the son of, this one here is for Franz, Eleazar, remember? That's the name, as a helper. Oh, yeah. All right. Was the chief officer over them in the temple pass. Yahuah was with him. And then it says Zechariah, the son of, come on, you guys got it. Mishalemia. Okay, great. All right. Was gatekeepers at the entrance of the tent of meetings. So they and their sons were in charge of the gates and of the house of Yahuah. That is the house of the tent as guards. The gatekeepers were on the four sides, east, west, north, and south. And the kinsmen who were in their villages were obligated to come in every 7 days in turn to be with these. And I want you to understand, like, well, I thought I was going to put a picture up, but I changed my mind just for the sake of time. But you're going to, at some point, we'll talk about the four corners of the earth and how all of this stuff comes together later on in the third temple. So anyway, verse 26 is for the four chief gatekeepers who were Elohim, or the Levites, were entrusted to be over the chambers and the treasures of the house of Elohim. Okay, then it says, let me move this thing here. All right, it says, and they lodged around the house of Elohim, for on them lay the duties of watching, and they had charge of opening in every morning. All right. So everyone sees who's doing all this guarding and keeping and things like that, right? And these are the things that now we're going to see later on, that this is also something you need to guard and keep in your mind or your heart. Some people are trying to try to get through your gates. Your gates is your eyes or your ears, things that you hear. People can go through there. If you're not a good guard or keeper of your own gates, then the enemy can come into your mind and into your heart and mess you up. All right. So it says, and station the gatekeepers at the gates of the house of Yahuah, so that no one should enter who was in any way, how? Unclean. Unclean, 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 unclean. They can't do it. All right. So everyone's with me so far. So this one here is 2 Baruch 10:18. Just something that I was saying. The priests take the keys of the sanctuary and cast them to the highest heaven and give them to Yahuah and say, guard your house yourself, because behold, we have been found to be false stewards. Now, how many of us can say, we want to do what is right with the Most High, we're trying to do, but we just keep falling short. We keep messing up. And some of us that are messing, I'm not talking about those that are messing up and they're still striving to do what is right. I'm saying you do have those that are using their positions to capitalize on things of the Most High, okay, and causing Israel to stumble and things like that, which we'll read in just a minute as well. All right, so he's like, hey, they're starting to say, listen, we are false stewards, okay? The priest had a job that required them to serve, to guard the house of Yahuah, to be a gatekeeper over all his house, to preserve his commandments, Torah, his word. This was the only job of the priests of this time, right? That's all they had to do. They're not going out to do this and, all around. They had to make sure that tabernacle, that temple was taken care of, okay? All right. Okay. All right. So you had priests, you got the high priest, you got the Levite, right? All of them had that position to help out with the tabernacle. You can't because that's why I changed the hue. See that? See how I changed it? I've seen some albinos look like that. All right. Uh-huh. Uh-uh. He's Latino. Okay. All right. To teach. Okay. And we, as we said, to be the gatekeepers. That is their job. A lot of us don't want to be gatekeepers. They keep that gate just like that right there, cracked open. Mm-hmm. All right. I said, so what was the priesthood like before the Levim or before the Levites? Remember, this was created. The Levite priesthood was created. There was something before them. All right. So here's where I started cutting a lot of stuff out, but I will walk through some of it. I'll see what I'll do. All right. So king priest order was set up before the Levite priesthood, right? So everyone's familiar with Better Sheet or Genesis 14:18. It says, "And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of El Elyon." Question: what does the word Salem mean? Peace. Okay. So when it says he's the king of Shalem, question is, have you ever read, I'll tell you where it's located if you haven't, but have you ever read where Shalem is a shortened word for Jerusalem? Right? Everyone heard that before? And where would we find that information? All right, so I'll tell you who says that. The trusty Strong's Concordance. They're so trustworthy. They say that the word Salem is a shortened way of saying Jerusalem. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, further linguistics will say, no, that's not true, right? But we'll see in just a minute why we're saying that. Psalms 110, verse 2, Yahuah shall send the rod of your strength out of Zion, rule you in the midst of your enemies. Your people shall be willing in the days of your power and in the beauty of set apartness from the womb of the morning. You have the dew of your youth. Yahuah has sworn and will not repent. You are a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek, as it's being translated. All right, so we understand so far that you see a king and a priest. Everyone agrees. All right. Hebrews 7:1-4 says, "For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of El Elyon, who met Abram returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a tenth part of all, first being by interpretation kings of righteousness, and after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace." Now notice they're telling you in the book of Hebrews that what the definition of the word means, not that this is equivalent, Salem or Shalem is equivalent to Jerusalem. Okay. All right. The other thing you should kind of pick up on is that it also says that Melchizedek means king of righteousness. Okay. All right. So without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning nor days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of Elohim, abides a priest continually. Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarchs Abraham gave the tenth of his spoils. Now, I may just do a whole separate lesson about Melchizedek, because there's a lot more information about this. I know people say, what do you mean about mother? So we'll have to talk about all of that when I do that series. However, what stands out to you in verse 3 and verse 4? What stands out? Okay, he's like the son of Elohim. Okay, this is what type of a priesthood is this? This is a continual. How can this priesthood be continual? We can see how the Levitical priesthood can be shut down, right? But do you see how this priesthood could be shut down? Mind you, what type of priest is he? He's the priest of who? Of El Elyon. Okay. So the other part is verse 4 says, now consider how great this man. What do you mean, this man? But what man? This says,
Mashiach.
okay. You sure? It says, now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave a tenth of the spoils. Who is this man? Right. Right. This man is referring to Melchizedek. That's what I want you to see first. The word was obviously is added, right? This word here is implied in the Greek. And how do you know that word is added? Because it's italicized, right? In the King James, if words are italicized, that literally means they added that to the text. All right. So if I remove this and it says, now consider how great this man, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave a tenth of the spoils. So the question I'm going to have is then, Melchizedek, is that a noun? Is that a name? What is that? So if you see it as a title, then you can plug the titles back into here. You want to see what I mean? So we'll see in just a minute. I'm going to share with you how you would know this is a title. We're going to go over it in just a minute. But for right now, most of us, to include myself, I would say, oh man, that's personal now. That's a personal name. I didn't have no problem saying that, right? But then let's look at something. All right, so we'll look at it in the Hebrew first. So it says, now the part I'm highlighting in here is right here too, okay? So it says here, Melchizedek. I want you to pay close attention to this, Makef right there. Melchizedek, Melech, which means king. Then it says, Shalem, right? King of Shalem. Hotzer, or brought forth, Lechem, food or bread, if you will. And then it says, Vayayin, everyone knows what it means, and some good wine. And Hu Kohen Le El Elyon. Okay? So look at the name Melchizedek. If you see there's a Makef there. The Makef, what does a Makef do? Is anyone familiar with what a Makef does? Oh, they said they need you in the mic. He said, I'm not getting up no more. Get the mic. All right.
He ties the words together.
Okay. So Malki is one word. Sedek is another word. And they're being tied together by Makef. And I'm going to define it in just a minute. So here you see that these are two words brought together by this here. And then right underneath it is the way you'll see it in the LXX or the Septuagint or the Greek. Notice for them, they put it together as one word. Okay? So now, he was called a priest of El Elyon. I really was thinking about really expanding on that. However, that would be a nice series to talk about who El Elyon is in comparing El Elyon not just to these places where it talks about it in the scripture, like in Psalms and some other places, but was there any other nations that knew who El Elyon was? A lot of them knew who El Elyon was. So that's why I said that's a whole lesson by itself to say, did El Elyon just pop out of nowhere? Or did people know who he was, right? The other part that what I'm saying is that I took out of doing was sharing that why all the nations, remember how you read about the Amorites, the Hittites and all them, how all their sins, blah, blah. So you got to ask yourself, do they all know him? Why are they talking about sins? Do they know his law, statutes, and commandments? Now, typically, we would probably say, no, he only gave it to Israel. Like Israel was the original nation. There were nations before Israel, but because of their wickedness is why he created Israel and to conquer all these other nations. But I will really have to go over a huge lesson as to when did the Hittites know who he was? When did the Amorites know who he was? When did the Perizzites, all of them knew that. Even Canaan, the Canaanites, how do they know who he was? Where we get the Phoenician and the ancient Hebrew, what we call ancient Hebrew, where did they all get this information from? So all that's been removed. So don't you worry about that. We'll do that next year. All right. The Brit Kadeshah follows the Septuagint in the Greek form. However, the translation into the English is used as a personal name and not a title. The Masoretic text and the Dead Sea Scrolls see this a bit differently, and they both will have this way of spelling it. Okay, so as the way it is spelled in the Hebrew, it was translated as, for instance, my righteous king. Remember how you say Aki, my brother? How do you do that? You add a yod, right? So you'll see that. So whenever we start maybe talking about the Hebrew, as we go further, you'll start to say, okay, this is making sense. I get this, I get that. But anyway, however, as a personal name, it is spelled or anglicized as Melchizedek, but should be transliterated as Melchizedek. Okay, that's how it should be translated. But because it's translated this way, it kind of looks like one word, and it kind of looks like that's a proper noun or a name, if you will, versus a title. Okay, so we'll keep going. The word maketh means binder. And the function much like a hyphen in the English. That is, two words of a word pair are joined together to form a new word, and changes in the vocalization of the word units often occurs. And that's how you spell Maketh. If you guys want to look it up on your own, that's how it is. All right. Why was David able to do priestly functions? Okay. Why was he? Now, he wasn't ordained to be a priest, right? So how was he able to do that?
He was from the family of Levites.
So David, he's from the tribe of Judah. So how can he do that? He's from the king's side of the house, right? So how can he do Levite side of the house stuff? All right, so we'll see. All right, 1 Samuel. Now, mind you, I went over some history to lead up to why. All right, so if you just bear with me, this will probably be a little bit longer of history than I normally would do, but I did this for a reason. All right, so it says, now Eli, or as this in the King James, Eli, was very old and heard all that his sons did unto all Israel. So who did all this? Eli's sons, right? Or Eli's sons did what he did. And I'm going to show you what he did and how they lay with the women that assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. So now, so we will have to talk about, number one, is it okay for the women to be there? Yeah, for prayer outside, right? They were at the place where they can do prayer, right? They can do prayers there. So the Levites say, oh, look at this sister here praying. She is righteous. She's beautiful. I got to have her, right? And they were doing this for a while. Now, remember I talked about abusing your office, right? Your position. It says, and he said unto them, why do you such things? For I hear of your evil dealings by all this people. And there came a man of Elohim unto Eli, and said unto him, thus saith Yahuah, did I plainly appear unto the house of your father when they were in Mitzrayim or Egypt in Paro of Pharaoh's house? And did I choose him out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to offer upon my altar, to burn incense, to wear an ephod before me? And did I give unto the house of your father all the offering made by fire and of the children of Israel? Wherefore kick you at my sacrifice and at my offering, which I have commanded in my habitation, and honor your sons above me, to make yourselves fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of Israel. My people? What did they just do? Okay, but I'm saying they're giving them all kinds of stuff, right? And they're abusing their position. Okay, so now I want you also to see that the women were also considered a part of this. So sometimes people leave that part out. No, okay. So now it says, wherefore Yahuwah Elohim of Israel says, I said indeed that your house, whose house? No. Eli's house, right? Eli's house, and the house of your father should walk before me forever, right? Yeah, that's what was said, right? Okay. He said, but now, Yahuwah says, but it far from me, for them that honor me, I will honor, and they that despise me shall be lightly esteemed. Okay. Same word as cursed. So now it says, this is very important. I want you to see if you're picking it up. It says, behold, the day comes that I will cut off your arm and the arm of your father's house, that there shall not be an old man in your house. What does he mean? I will cut off your arm and the arm of your father's house.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just getting ready to say. That your priesthood is going to stop because you've defiled me.
Okay, so we're saying as a whole priesthood, or it says, behold, the days come that I will cut off your arm, not so much him, but his arm, and the arm of your father's house. So we'll see what it says. And it says, and you shall see an enemy in my habitation, and all the wealth which Elohim shall give Israel, and there shall not be an old man in your house forever. So is he cutting Eli off? He's cutting who? He's cutting the sons off. Everyone agrees, right? Sons, the old men, he's cutting them off. He didn't say he's cutting Eli off. So when it says the arm, who is the arm? His sons are the arm that he's cutting off. Why would that be important? Because later on, when we do another future series, long time from now, that the Mashiach being the right arm.
That's what I was going.
See that?
I saw
he
it.
is the son. And was he cut off? Right? So we'll see there's a huge parallel to this. But anyway, we'll keep going. So it says, and I will raise me up a faithful priest that shall do according to that which is in my heart and in my mind. And I will build him a sure house, and he shall walk before my anointed forever. Who is his anointed? Which one got that coconut oil?
Anointed Chab.
Oh, that's wrong.
Oh,
oil.
yeah.
Okay. So you got to know this is Israel. Israel is his anointed, right? And this priest, is going to be the one that's going to be walking among the anointed. Okay. All right. So now we'll keep going. 3:11 says, and he said to who? Shemuel, right? Shemuel, behold, I will do a thing in Israel, at which both the ears of everyone that hears it shall tingle. This is going to be Shemuel. That's the one he's referring to. Okay. So then he says, in that day I will perform against Eli all things which I have spoken concerning his house. When I begin, I will also make an end. For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knows, because his sons made themselves vile, and he restrained them not. Tell me what that means.
You didn't keep the gate. You didn't keep the gate.
He saw them doing wrong, but he did not correct them. He just let them do what they wanted to do.
All right. So I want you all to take out of this little portion here is that, number one, Eli's getting judged as well, because he didn't open up his mouth. You remember what the Torah says, right? If you
And
know
you don't.
someone, and you don't tell them there, then you bear their iniquities, right? Leviticus 5:1. He didn't say nothing. So now he's getting in trouble because he didn't want to open up his mouth. All right. So he says, and then it says the Philistine, right? The Philistines, as it says in English, fought, and Israel, Yisrael, was smitten, and they fled every man into his tent. And there was a very great slaughter, for there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. 30,000 footmen. And the ark of Elohim was taken. And these two sons of Eli, who is his two sons? Kaphni and Phineas, right? Okay, were slain. Talking about his sons. This is, and there ran a man of Benjamin out of the army and came to Shiloh, or as it says, Shiloh, and the same day with his clothes rent and with earth upon his head. And when he came, lo, Eli sat upon a seat by the wayside, watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of Elohim. And when the man came into the city and told it, all the city cried out. 5:1. He says, and then the Philistines took the ark of Elohim and brought it in from where? Even ha Ezer. Now I know you guys are supposed to know your vowels by now. Okay. Unto Ashdoda. Ashdoda. Well, it's translated as Ashdod, but Ashdoda. Okay. It says, and when the Philistines took the ark of Elohim, they brought it into the house of Dagon, or Dagon as it's in English, Dagon. Okay. And set it by Dagon. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of Yahuah, and the head of Dagon, or Dagon, and both the palms of his hands were cut off upon the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him. Therefore, neither the priest of Dagon nor any that come into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod until this day, or at least in that day. Okay? So that means they're idle. You put that Ark of the Covenant right next to it. They go up to go make praises to their idol, and their idol's all chopped up in pieces. Okay, there's I'm not going back in there. There's something up with that Ark. You got to be kidding. Yeah, I don't want that. All right. 6:1. We're getting close now. So the ark of Yahuah was in the country of Philistine, right? The Philistines, 7 months. Okay. 8:4 says, then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Shemuel unto where? Haramata. Okay. And said unto him, behold, you are old, and your sons walk not in your ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. But the thing displeased Shemuel when they said, give us a king to judge us. And Shemuel prayed unto Yahuah. Okay, not good. So I said, what just happened?
They rejected their king.
Okay, so there's a rejection, right? They wanted to be like other nations. They rejected Yahuah as their king. Yahuah was their king, and the Leviim, or the Levites, was the priests, right? They weren't familiar with that. But remember back in Exodus chapter 19, Yahuah wanted Israel to be his priesthood, okay, meaning the bride. And he would be the king and the bridegroom. So first, for the brethren, what do you get out of this here? Hmm? Okay. Okay. All right. So for the sisters, what'd you get out of this? Okay. All right. Yeah, just from here. From in other words, when they wanted to choose a king, I want you to think about what's happening here. First of all, the Yahuah was operating as their king. Period. Right. And Israel, well, specific Levites at this moment was operating as the priest. So you got the king and priest.
Ken.
And the king normally is trying to take care of his kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And he's asking the priesthood to take care of his house.
Yeah.
Do you see a relationship between male and female?
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to be protectors and guarders as well. You know, they're keeping themselves sharp for their king, just as much as all of Israel is the bride, should have been doing the same thing. Is everyone with me so far?
Mm-hmm. All
right. So they really got quiet. You know why? Because I think they're in that guard mode. All right. All right. So 1 Samuel 8:7. And Yahuah said unto Shemuel, hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto you. For they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. That was so heartbreaking this morning that when I was reading this. So anyway, according to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Mitzrayim or Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other Elohim, so do they also unto you. And you shall cry out in that day because of your king, which you shall have chosen, and Yahuah will not hear ye in that day. Nevertheless, the people refused. So even after Shema is going to go tell them what Yahuah said, he's trying to have a relationship with his bride, right? And they're refusing. But what's happening is the other nations is more appealing. The way that they do things, I want that. The way that they operate, their rules, their governing, their government, their system is more appealing than Yahuah's. You ask yourself, why is that? Right? So we do that today. If there's laws that we like, oh yeah, we're all for it. If there's laws we don't like, let me go find it in the laws today. Mm-hmm. And so you got to see that they have double standards in this land. The laws of this land has double standards. Everyone's familiar with that, right? So again, but whatever they like, they pick and choose what they like. And this was not going to happen. So he says, you know what, just listen to them. He said, nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Shemuel. And they said, nay, but we will have a king over us, as though they didn't. Right? But this is what they wanted. That we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. Isn't that what he said he does already?
Yeah. He sent you out there with them two priests. It unfair. All this covenant. What happened? Oh.
Okay. So the difference was this king, Yahuah, there is no negotiation. If I tell you don't do something, it ain't happening, and I'm not going to change my mind. Remember how when they were in there, oh, I'm sorry, we're going to go. I said, you're going to die. I got like, boom, boom, come back. What happened? I done told you, right? So again, whereas a physical king, we can negotiate. We can talk. We can cry. We can do a lot of stuff that we can to try to change this particular king's mind, right? Not good. All right. So, king priest order was set up before the Levitical priesthood. Okay, so the kings are to be from the tribe of Yehudah, while the priests are to be of the tribe of Levi, right? But prior to that, we know that there was a priest-king thing already happening before Israel ever was even created. that was already happening from the garden to all other nations had that, to include now Israel become a nation and want the same thing that the other nations want. Okay. Now we get to it. So, and it was told King David, saying, Yahuah has blessed the house of Obed Edom, and that all pertains unto him because of the ark of Elohim. So David went and brought up the ark of Elohim from the house of Obed Edom into the city of David with gladness. Okay, and it was so that when they that bear the ark of Yahuah had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed oxen and fatlings. Who's supposed to do that? Okay, all right. And so, and David danced before Yahuah with all his might, and David was girded with a linen ephod. Okay. Verse 17, and they brought in the ark of Yahuah and set it in this place, and in the midst of the tabernacle that David had pitched for it, and David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before Yahuah. And as soon as David had made an end of the burnt offerings and peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of Yahuah of hosts. Who normally blesses the people? The priests. Okay. He said, then David built there an altar unto Yahuah and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. So Yahuah was entreated for the land, and the plague was stayed from Israel. Now, the same thing you see in Samuel here that David did, you'll see all the patriarchs were doing too. So that's why I didn't put in, I got a little bit of it in this here. I was going to show you a parallel of even the patriarchs, what they did. What did they have?
Before the transgression,
Mm-hmm.
that's what they all were doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was supposed to be a kingdom of priests and kings,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like you said, all the patriarchs would give these burnt offerings, these peace offerings. It wasn't sin offering. You don't notice that,
Right. Mm-hmm.
but it's just those types of offerings. We all were at least the priests and the kings. The
Mm-hmm.
men of the families were supposed to do that.
Because he was making, all the patriarchs all had the same covenant. They're going to be like the sands of the sea, right? They were going to, stars of the skies, they're going to rule nations. And because they were going to rule nations, it started with Abraham all the way down to, but in that particular covenant, they all are making sacrifices. So they're all going to be like the roles, if you will, of kings and priests already happening. All right. So the other part I want you to see basically is, in which I got it in my notes and coming up in the slide, but I also just want to say it this way, that the reason why this priesthood is stronger, if you will, than the Levitical priesthood is because whenever the Levitical priesthood shuts down, what do you have left? You know, if this is the way to get to the Father, and I was going to share, I might do maybe a part 2 of this. I'm not sure, or I might just keep going.
Part two.
But the part I'm getting at is that the cherubims, in other words, the whole tabernacle that's in Shamayim or in heaven, there's a mirror to that on the earth, right? So we're going to read that a little bit of it today about how the cherubims and the priesthood are in like manner. But all it's just to say is that this priesthood was created. There was already one. So if this one shuts down, you're going to need the one that's eternal or continually going to reestablish the Levitical priesthood. Okay? All right. We'll keep going. So 1 Kings 3:3 says, and Shlomo loved Yahuah, walking in the statue. At that time, Solomon loved Yahuah. All right. A statue of David and his father. Only he sacrificed and burnt offerings incense in high places. 3:4. Now, mind you, if you understand where the timeline is, the temple hasn't even been built yet. You know, Solomon's temple is not being built yet. All right. And the king went. Where did he go? Givona, As it says Gibbon, I think in the King James. All right, to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place, and 1,000 burnt offerings did Shlomo offer upon that altar. That's a lot. And Shlomo awoke, and behold, it was a dream. Okay, this is just jumping down to verse 15. And it was a dream, and he came to where? Jerusalem, and stood before the ark of the covenant of Yahuah, and offered up burnt offerings and offered peace offerings, and made a feast to all his servants. Okay, so you're seeing, number one, if the Levites then went ahead and went south, and he started cutting them off and doing whatever, but the ark of the covenant is still there, right? So now the king says, I got to make a decision. He becomes king and priest because the priesthood is operating wickedly, right? No difference when you see that parallel with Mashiach, right? You see the same setup. Okay, so if you, okay, now I'll be going too much. All right. Okay, there are many more places where the kings of Yehuda did sacrificing on the altar. Majority of the places that this took place, that the Levites were operating wickedly, the Levites or the Levites are confined to the temple usually, and that the king priest is not. Okay. All right. So the part I was telling you about the cherubims and the priest really fast. I said, so he drove, this is in Bereshit of Genesis 3:24. And so he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Gan Eden, right, or Garden of Eden, cherubims, right, cherubims, and the flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. Okay, so Adam did not guard the Gan or the garden, but allowed entrance to a foul nakash. That's the word for the serpent there in Genesis 3. It's nakash. So he allowed this nakash, a commonly called serpent, that brought sin, chaos, disorder into the sanctuary and into Adam and Kawa's lives. So it didn't just stop there. So everyone can see how this little leaven could leaven whole lump, right? So he allowed the nakash to rule over him rather than the ruling over it and casting it out of the garden. Rather than extending the divine presence of the garden sanctuary, Adam and Chal were expelled from it. Got to go. Okay, so now when we're seeing him about to build this temple, meaning Solomon is about to build this temple, and he overlays the cherubim with gold, and there he carved all walls of the house round about with carved figures of the cherubims and palm trees upon flowers within and without. The two doors also were olive trees, and he carved upon them carvings of the cherubims, palm trees, and upon flowers, and overlaid them with gold, and spread gold upon the cherubims and upon the palm trees. So also made he for the door of the temple posts of olive trees. And as we keep reading all this, what I want you to see is you're seeing trees, flowers. Later on, you read about pomegranate trees. And so what is happening? The garden picture is now in the tabernacle. He made that temple to reflect the garden. Right. They already knew this. Okay. So how are we doing so far? All right. Who? Okay. Kananya, who had a question? Okay. All right. So we'll keep going. So priest king, two Adams. Zechariah 6:12 and 13 says, and speak unto him, saying, thus speak Yahuah of hosts, saying, behold, the man whose name is the branch, Samach, and he shall grow up out of his place, and he shall build the temple of Yahuah. Even he shall build the temple of Yahuah, and he shall bear the esteem, and shall sit and rule upon his throne, and he shall be a priest upon his throne, and the counsel of peace shall be between them both. See what happens? Do you read any type? And this is king priest here. See anything about bearing iniquities? And no, totally different. Okay, Romans 5:14 says, nevertheless, death reigned from Adam to Moses, even over them that had not sinned after the similitude of Adam's transgression, who is the figure of him that was to come. Who was the figure of him was to come? Adam was, right? Adam was that. 1 Corinthians 15:22, it says, for in Adam all die, even so in Mashiach shall all be made alive. 24 says, then comes the end when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to Elohim, even the Father, when he shall have put down all rule and all authority and power. So who's going to do this? The Mashiach, right? But he's going to be king and priest. All right. So he says, and as soon as nature, verse 44 says, oh, I'm sorry. I'll finish reading. 24. He says, "In the Father, when He hath put down all rule and all authority and power, for He must reign till He hath put all enemies under His foot." 44 says, "It is sown a natural body; it is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body and there is a spiritual body, and so that is written: the first Adam was a living soul, and the last Adam became a quickened spirit." And this, if they're matching Adams, if you will, and if this Adam is going to be king and priest, what do you think this other one was operating like? A king and priest. All right. So I want us to see that the last Adam is called to be a king and priest and get us back into the garden. The first Adam was in the garden and functioning as a king and priest, but still having a king over him. Okay, you remember, and I just put on here, will be the double, I guess, I must have been Russian. Okay, the priest in the future. In other words, is there anywhere that talks about we're going to be kings too? But you're also going to have king over you. Right. So you got to understand that what was happening is this process is going to reverse itself. Meaning, remember we already read, in Isaiah or Yeshayahu 46:10, he knows the end from the beginning. So, and then we know that the objective is to get back to the beginning, how he wanted it before sin came in, right? So this is what's happening here. All right, Mount Moriah and Bethel. All right, so okay, I just want to make sure. I don't want to. Okay, and he went on his journey from the south, even from Bethel or Bethel, as it's translated, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai. Now, I'll wait. So then it says, unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first, and there Abram called on the name of Yahuah. All right. So then I want you to see first, you see 3, what did he have? He had a tent there. You notice, what else did you notice there? And an altar. You saw a tent, you saw an altar, and you had a sacrifice. See this pattern with the patriarchs, right? All right. 22:2 says, and he said, take now your son, your only Yitzchak, whom you love, and get you into the land of Moriah, right? Moriah or Moriah, okay? And offer him there a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell you of. 3:1, it says, and Shlomo began to build the house of Yahuah at Jerusalem in Mount Moriah, where Yahuah appeared unto David, or is that his father, in the place that David or David had prepared the threshing floor. And it says, of Ornan the Yabusi, or it says Jebusite. Question, what does Yabusi mean? Okay, if you look that up, it says that is the word that later, or the older or ancient word for Jerusalem. Yabusi. Okay, you can look it up. So if that's the older version of it, then which Shalem? Which one is it? All right. They're upgrading the Strong's Concordance nowadays. All right, so 16 says, and Yaakov Jacob awake out of his sleep, and he says, surely Yahuah is in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid, and he said, how dreadful is this place? That is none other but the house of Elohim, and this is the gate of heaven. All right, so you have Mount Moriah, you have Bethel. What does Bethel mean? House of El. Bethel, house, or Bethel is house of El. And then you have over here this place where is also Mount Moriah happened. There's something house of El. What's going on? Why is there two houses of where Yahuwah would be? Anyone knows? Any clue? Do you believe it's the same place? He's not doing his job. I got you.
No, I do have a question though. I don't have the answer that
Okay.
you're asking for.
Start the 60 seconds. Okay, go ahead.
Moriah, is that the same as like Moreh? Like a house of teaching?
It's a little bit like that. It has the same root, yeah, which means, flow and things like that, sure.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
That's
Okay, so keep this in mind. The answer, I'm going to have it in the slide, but I was just curious to see where it was at. So anyway, and Yaakov and Jacob rose early in the morning, and he took the stone that he had put for his pillows and set it up for a pillar and poured oil upon the top of it. Okay, 19 says, and he called the name of this place Bethel, but the name of the city was called Luz at the first. Okay, so we got two places that's considered the house of Yahuwah, right? You got one place where Jacob was. You have another place where Mount Moriah and Zion and Olive and Jerusalem, right? Everyone's familiar with this, right? Because Solomon built the temple on Mount. Okay, great. So it says, and Elohim said unto Yaakov and Jacob, arise and go up into Bethel and dwell there, and make there an altar unto unto Elohim, that appeared unto you when you fled from the face of Chetzah or Esau, your brother. He's your brother. Okay. And Yaakov said unto his household, and to all that were with him, put away the strange Elohim that are among you, and be clean, and change your garments. Okay. It says, and let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make there an altar unto Elohim, who answered me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way which I went. All right, so we got those places, and I want to add a little bit about this in other writings. Okay, you just bear with me. This is Jubilees 32:16. Says, and the second night of the 22nd day of this month, Jacob and Jacob planned to build up that place and to build a wall around the court and to purify or sanctify it and to make it eternally set apart a Chodesh for himself and his sons after him. And Yahuwah appeared to him in the night and blessed him and said to him, your name will not be called Jacob or Jacob, but you will be named Israel, Yashral, Israel. And he said to him again, Ani Yahuwah, I am Yahuwah who created heaven and the earth, and I shall increase you and multiply you very much. And there will be kings from you. They will rule everywhere that tracks of mankind have been trodden. So they're going to be kings everywhere. I wonder if there's a prophecy about more kings in the future. All right. So then I shall give to your seed all the land under heaven, and they will rule in all nations as they have desired. And after this, all of the earth will be gathered together, and they will inherit it forever.
going to heaven, y'all.
Yeah, on our way. And he finished speaking with him, and he went up from him, and Yaakov watched until he went up into heaven, or Shamayim. And he saw in a vision of the night, and behold, a Malach was descending from Shamayim, or from heaven, and there were 7 tablets in his hands. And he gave them to Yaakov and Jacob, and he read them, and he knew everything which was written in them, which would happen to him and to his sons during all the ages. And he showed him everything which was written on the tablets. And he said to him, do not build this place, and do not make an eternal sanctuary, and do not dwell here, because this is not the place. Go to the house of Abraham, your father, and dwell with Isaac, your father, until the day of your father's death, because you will die peacefully in Mitzrayim, and you will be buried honorably in the land and in the tomb of your fathers with Abraham and Yitzchak or Isaac. Do not fear, because just as you have seen and read, thus will everything come to pass. But you write down everything just as you have seen and read it. Okay? So you read a little bit more into the story, right? Okay? He says, and Jacob said, "Oh, Yahuah, how will I remember everything that I read?" I mean, we have that problem now with the Hebrew class. Okay. All right. Uh-huh. So there's a remedy. Listen to the remedy for it. I remember everything that I record. He says, and he said unto him, "I will cause you to remember everything." Huh? Y'all never asked? Y'all haven't asked the Father yet for that help? Okay. He says, and he went from him, and he woke up from his sleep, and he recalled everything that he had read and seen, and he wrote down all of the matters which he had read and seen. And he observed there yet one more day, and he sacrificed in it according to everything which he had been sacrificing on the previous day. And he called it addition, because that day was added, but the previous day he called the feast. And thus it was revealed that it should be, and it is written in the heavenly tablets. Therefore it was revealed to him, so that he might observe it and add it to the 7 days of the feast. And it was called an addition, because it was written on high in the attestation of feast days, according to the number of days of the year. According to what? The days of the year. Oh, okay, let me keep going. All right, so the next part is in the Dead Sea Scrolls. He says, and I find favor that they shall be my people, and I will be there forever. I will dwell with them for all eternity. I shall purify or sanctify my temple with my esteem. For I will cause my esteem to dwell upon it until the day of creation, when I myself will create my temple. I will establish it for myself for everlasting in fulfillment of the covenant that I made with Yaakov at Bethel, Yitzchak at Gerar, and Abraham at Haran. Okay? All right. Now, that's one writing. This is Folio, which is a historian of the first century. I know some people don't like the guy, but I figure I'll read it anyway. All right, so now, the Elohim, governor of the universe, does by himself, my disclaimer here is I'm not saying that Philo is writing scripture or anything like that, okay? By himself and alone walks about invisibly and noiselessly in the minds of those who are purified in the highest degree. For there is extent a prophecy which was delivered to the wise men, and to which it says, I will walk among you and I will be your Elohim, right? So you see that in Leviticus 26:12. This is but the Malachim, the words of Elohim, moved about in the minds of those persons who are still in a process of being washed, but who have not yet completely washed off the life which defiles them and which is polluted by the contact of their heavy bodies, make them look pure and brilliant to the eye of virtue. Now, where do you get out of this first part? Does anyone fit that category there? Nobody?
Khan.
Okay, so you see, this is us. We are in a, we need to be washed all the time, purified. Our minds and stuff like that. So, but where's he? And where it says he's walking invisibly, where? In your mind. Okay, so do you ever see this struggle in your mind sometimes? No one gets that? No one gets a struggle in their mind? Oh, okay. Let's,
Can
everybody else is just pure. Right?
no,
Hey,
oh no.
All the time. All the time.
Okay, about to say, if you
Ain't no strugglers in here.
no, because if not, I was going to ask you if you could write a book and just kind of share with us how you got so pure. It'd be greatly appreciated. All right. Yeah. Yeah, that's how you're supposed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking who is doing that?
Mm-hmm.
No one's talking. Okay. That means there remains a sacrifice. All right. He said, but it's plain enough that vast numbers of evils are driven out, and that what a multitude of wicked inhabitants is expelled, in order that one good man may be introduced to dwell there. Do you therefore, O my soul, hasten to become the abode of Elohim, his Kodesh temple, to become strong from having been most weak, powerful from having been powerless, wise from having been foolish, and very reasonable for having been doting and childless. All right. So again, there's a thing that we do on a daily basis. We have to always have a washing, a cleansing. That's what his word is for, right? All right. Yes, this is we're almost finished. That's why I figure I will put this whole thing up on there because we're almost done. Okay. Uh, well, I'm just gonna put it in this little hole here. All right. Anyone want to read? All right. I guess I'll read it myself. I thought I might have a reader. All right. He said he had a dream. Okay, this is the Targums Jonathan, or as they call it, Targums Jonathan. Talking about the same dream about Jacob. All right, Jacob had. It says, and he had a dream, and behold, a ladder was fixed in the earth, with it top reaching towards the heavens. And behold, the two Melchizedek who had gone to Sodom and who had been banished from their place because they had revealed the secrets of Yahuah of the world, went about when they were banished until the time that Yaakov went forth from his father's house. Then, as an act of kindness, they accompanied him to Bethel. And on to that day, they ascended to the heavens on high and said, come and see Yaakov, or Jacob, the pious, whose image is fixed in the throne of esteem. Now, if you go to that scripture, Isaiah 49:3, you'll see what that means, okay? But meaning, basically, Israel is going to be the esteem of the Father, all right? And whom you have desired to see. Then the rest of the Chodesh Melachim, or set apart, commonly called angels and messengers of Yahuah, came down to look at him. Then he dreamed, and behold, a ladder was fixed in the earth, and its top was reaching to the heavens. And behold, the two Melachim who had gone to Sodom were driven away from the vision because they were revealed in the mysteries of Yahuah, the world, for they continuously banished until the time of Yaakov, when they went from the house of his father. Then they accompanied him to a loving kindness of Bethel, and that day they went up to the heavens on high. They answered and said, come and see Yaakov, the pious one, the image. So I have two of the there's the Jonathan, and then there's Nephthali. I don't know if you're familiar with that Targum. Nephthali has a different reading. But anyway, we'll just keep going. And behold, the esteem of Yahuah was standing over him. And he said to him, I am Yahuah Elohim of Abraham, your father, and the Elohim of Yitzchak, or Isaac, and the land of which you are lying I will give to you and to your descendants. And your descendants will be numerous as the dust of the heavens, and you will become strong to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. And on account of your merits, all the families of the earth will be blessed, and on account of all the merits of your descendants. And behold, my memra, or my word, if you will, in the Aramaic, is your help, and I will watch over you in every place that you go, and I will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I do that which I have spoken to you. Then Yaakov woke up from his sleep and said, truly, the esteem of the Shekinah of Yahuah dwells in this place, and I did not know it. Then he feared and said, how awesome and praiseworthy is this place, This place is no profane place, but rather a sanctuary to the name of Yahuwah, and this is suitable for prayer, directed towards the gate of heaven, constructed under the throne of esteem. Then Yaakov Jacob rose early in the morning and took the stone from which he had placed as his headrest and placed it a pillar and poured out oil on top of it. Now, the part I want to get to share with you, obviously, is him seeing it as a sanctuary, A, but the other part is, remember where it says all the Melachims came down to see him because he's written on this tablet. So they're all coming down to see who he is. And then in the Masoretic text or the King James or ESV, whatever version you're using, notice it says they were ascending and descending. So they're stating that they were ascending and descending because they wanted to see who he was since he was written on these tablets on this date. All right. And then he called the name of the place Bethel, but Luz was the name of the city previous to this. Then Yaakov Jacob swore an oath and saying, "It is Memra, the word of Yahuwah will be my help, and keep me from shedding innocent blood and idolatry and uncovering of nakedness of this way that I am going, and give me food to eat and clothes to wear." Okay. And I can move this down now. All right. So now I'm just, after the next two slides, just really a summary and we're finished. All right, so the first book of Chronicles narrates David's preparation for building the temple that Solomon or Shlomo will accomplish. David's preparatory actions include all the same elements found with the small-scale temple building activities of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, which confirms that their building activities were indeed a miniature version of or a pointers to a later sanctuary. So everyone can understand that the patriarchs were making these little sanctuaries, if you will. And then next you know, when Israel comes out of Mitzrayim, it gets a little bit bigger. And then Solomon makes this next bigger one, right? And you see how it's progressing. And ultimately, we talked about last week about how the New Jerusalem come down. It's going to be a huge, huge one, okay? All right. The other part I want you to look at is in 1 Chronicles 21:16. It says, "And David lifted up his eyes, and he saw the Malach of Yahuwah standing between the earth and the heaven, having drawn sword in his hand, stretched out over Jerusalem. Then David and the elders of Israel, who were clothed in sackcloth, fell upon their faces." What did he see? Is there any parallel to anything that you guys can recognize? Jacob. Now, who else sees it? David see it. So you see the parallels. Why don't you see this? Okay. All right. 18 says, "Then the Malach of Yahuwah commanded Gad, or you can say God, as it's translated, to say to David, that David should go up and set up what? An altar unto Yahuwah in the threshing floor of Ornan the Yabusi. Then Shlomo or Solomon began to build the house of Yahuwah at Jerusalem in Mount Moriah, where Yahuwah appeared unto him, David his father, in the place that David had prepared in the threshing floor of Ornan the Yabusi. All right. So I said David begins the preparation on a mountain, specifically Mount Moriah. David experiences and he sees the Malach of Yahuwah standing between the earth and heaven. Okay, you get your scriptures. And then at the site, David builds an altar. Everyone's familiar with that. All right, and offer burnt offerings, and he called to Yahuwah. You see those scriptures. Furthermore, David calls the place the house of Yahuwah Elohim, because this is the site of Israel's future temple to be prepared by David, which when we get to the other side of the book, we're going to see how those two temples are going to overlap one another, okay? Summary. So First Chronicles 17 closely links the need to build a temple. See also 2 Samuel 7:2-13 with the following aspects of Genesis 1:28. Number 1, ruling and subduing. You see that in the garden. You see this what Solomon is asking. Number 2, blessings on Elohim's kingly governors. Right? You see that in 7:29, but you also see Father blessing Adam as well. 2 Samuel 2:7-9, I will make you a great name, would allude to Genesis 12:2. I will make your name great. According to the overall purpose is linked to Elohim giving rest to Israel's kings from his enemies. You can read that. This prophecy is fulfilled only partially by Solomon. However, since 2 Samuel 7:10-16 says that the coming kingdom and the temple will last forever, which was not true with Solomon or his descendants, you can read about that, also affirms the same thing of the coming kingdom. So this is leading to a coming kingdom. Everything is a progression. So everything that the Father is doing that looks like it's a mistake to some people, it's not a mistake. It just keeps growing, keeps getting bigger and bigger to this full picture is finished, or between the book is finished, when he says all has been complete. Okay. All right. Okay, yeah. Okay, so Israel is to worship on the mountain, right? You see Exodus 3:12. Though Sinai is never called the house of Elohim. In addition, Sinai or Sinai exhibits other features, typically, at least they know I was finished. All right. Names associated with Israel's temple on Mount Zion. All right, number 2, just as with the tabernacle and the temple, so Mount Sinai was divided into 3 sections of increasing sanctity. The majority of Israel were to remain at the foot of Sinai. Remember, the bottom of Sinai was majority of Israel, okay? The priests and the 70 elders were allowed to come some distance up the mountain, right? You get the scriptures, y'all familiar with that. But only Moses could ascend to the top and directly experience the presence of Elohim. Just as the altar was in the outer part section of the temple, so the altar was built at the lowest and the least sacred part of Sinai, where Israel offered a burnt offering and sacrificed young bulls as a peace offering to Yahuah. And Moses took half of the blood and sprinkled it on the altar. So on, we read in chapter 24. So not only does the top part of Sinai approximate the Kadosh Kadoshim, or the most set apart place, because only Israel's high priest, meaning Moses, could enter there, but it was the place where Elohim's cloud and presence dwelt, okay? For Moshe was the high priest at that point. So even the way that everything was set up for Mount Sinai is the same way it was set up for the temple. Everything has a purpose as we keep going through these places. And then no more. So any questions? I know I was going to try to make it 6:12. All right. Whew. I'll try to make it before 6:30 because that's when the Hebrew class starts. All right. Any questions? All right, we can stand and close.
All right, if all hearts and minds are clear. I got questions. Hallelujah. Thank you, Yah. Baruch atah Yahuah Eloheinu melech haolam. We give all esteem and honor unto you for this day, for this gathering in which you have allowed us to come together in your presence. We thank you for the lesson which has gone forth here today. We ask and pray of Yahuah that your Ruach come in to each and every one of us and transform our hearts and our minds so that we can return to you in good faith. We thank you for the lessons in which you have given us, for continuing to choose us, even though we have rejected you. We thank you for all in which you have done for us, and we ask and pray for your continued blessings over our households. We pray over the lives of each and every one of our Morehs and each and every one of the assembly here today, as well as online. We thank you for the lesson in which we are about to receive in our Hebrew as well, so that we can return to your Lashawan Kodesh, your holy tongue. We thank you for the nourishment of our bodies in which we are about to receive, and ask and pray that you bless the hands that have prepared it. As we go forth out of here today, allow us to be able to return home to each and every one of our individual dwellings with safe travels and mercies. We thank you. We love you. We bless you. And say hallelujah, hallelujah unto your Kodesh name. As we ask and pray these things of you in the name of your beloved Son, our King and High Priest, Yehoshua HaMashiach. Amen.